Poster's note. Warning. Chapters 169, 170 and 171 have a lot of sex stuff in it. From what I remember, this chapter is not as bad. And I should have taken notes on what was in the chapters. But I will not be recapping this chapter. Twilight was able to see a working electric light bulb for the first time and learned more about electricity. They had the running of the ponies. Nav won it. For winning she got a leather bag, an intricate bronze pocket watch. It had feathers carved all over it. A pair of telephones. And the Griffins seemed to like the fact Nav tried to win it. Seems most people in the race try to lose it, and what fun is that? Twilight and Nav entered a auction. Nav got more money in the auction. And he was given to an older Griffin that is into manga and cosplay. That brings us up to this chapter. End Poster's note. Diaries of a Madman. By What Must I Do? Chapter 171. When Twilight and I met in the dream realm that night, we both kinda just sat and stared at each other for a while. Finally, after some amount of time, I rubbed the back of my neck. The movement made her flinch a little and she blinked. So how was your day? I asked. I've had better, she said. It had its upsides, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I've had better. Yours? Yeah, same, I said. So. Remember how I said Griffins were possessive? Yeah. Well, turns out that's true. Kinda an understatement, but definitely true. Alright, got it. Another thing I may have mentioned in the past, rarity is the fucking worst. It somehow always comes back up. It took her a second to process that one. Finally she just said. Hey. Have you ever heard of manga? Or anime? Oh. Yeah, Rarity introduced me to them. They're the best. I really like the romance ones. Alright, so we need to have a serious talk later. She burst into giggles. I'm kidding, Nav. Those things are awful. Why do you ask? Turns out they spread to Griffiths. Oh no. And he was a huge fan. Oh. Oh no. His personal favorite was one about a griffin master and a pony maid. She slumped down and sighed. I'm so sorry, Nav. Yeah. It was an experience. Would you like to talk about it? I looked down and sighed. This guy was super rich, but incredibly awkward and lonely. He lived in a mansion by himself. So it was just the two of you, all alone. Yep. He didn't hurt you, did he? He never even touched me. She blinked in surprise. It was just the two of you. He had a thing for pony maids, and he never touched you. Apparently hentai hasn't gotten this far north, just the manga. I only asked if he wanted to fuck me once. He turned bright red and started stammering like crazy. Hey. So I was bought by a big sexy hunk of a griffin and all he wanted me to do was pretend to be his maid for a day. No sex at all. And he paid 1500 bits for that. I know, right? He could have gotten a live-in pony maid for a lot cheaper. After a few seconds of stunned silence, her eyes narrowed slightly. Are you bucking with me, Nav? Honest to God, I said. He molests me with his eyes all the time, but ever since we actually got back to his house, he hasn't had the balls to touch me. Wow. So, are you disappointed? I mean, kinda. My stupid horse pussy is on fire and I have a feeling he's got the equipment to put that flame out, but he's not gonna do it. I've considered trying to manipulate him into it, but that just feels dirty. Why? Both of you are in heat. You know he wants to go for it, but he's too afraid. Why not just take the first step? Because I'm still in this stupid subservient, shy maid role you put me in. It just so happens that it appealed to every single one of this dude's fantasies. Maybe I should meet him, Twilight slowly said. Sounds like we have a few things in common. Pervert. Anyway, how was your day? Oh, mine? I made a plan with the guy who bought me. We decided to whore me out and split the profits. I stared at her in silence for a few very long seconds. Even Aqua was completely silent on that one. Wow. So I kinda gotta ask, why? Well, I mean, you know. You always encouraged me to explore my fetishes. So you're saying you always wanted to get whored out? I mean, safely. He happened to share the same fetish. Okay, whatever. I personally think that is a weird fetish, but I will admit that I have some that you consider weird. She stared at me for a few seconds before humping at me. Don't tell me you've never fantasized about it. Not really, no. Like I said, I think it's weird. But I respect that you have it. We've talked about doing it to you all the time. Yep. I've always thought it was weird. But you seemed okay with it, like you were willing. I was, I said with a shrug. You wanted it. I thought it was weird, but I'm also open-minded, so whatever. You know, open-minded about some things. She stared at me in silence for a few moments before walking forward and hugging me. Thank you, Nav. You're welcome. So, how was it? Amazing, she sighed, pulling away. They were all over me like animals. Creepy. Well, I'm glad at least one of us is having fun. Are you gonna continue letting that guy whore you out tomorrow? He said he had a surprise for me, actually. I'm kinda looking forward to it. What are you doing tomorrow? Probably getting ogled some more by this annoying weeb, I replied. Why don't you just leave? She asked. If push comes to shove, you can still just say the command word. Because he paid for me. I'm not having fun, but he's not actually trying to hurt me, so whatever. I'll give him his day and then never see him again. You know, hopefully. She smirked. And you thought you'd make a bad noble? How many nobles are out there selling themselves at griffin auctions? Just you, me, an actual prince, and a few griffin ladies. Honestly, I'm surprised Princess Gilda wasn't there. I don't think she's interested in a relationship. She definitely isn't interested in being sold to anyone, which I can respect. Being sold can be fun. I lifted an eyebrow, which made her roll her eyes. You know, if that's what you want. Yeah, let me know how being a prostitute works out for you. Anyway, where should we meet back up tomorrow? At the inn. Feel free to teleport back as soon as you're done with him. That spell is fairly easy to recast. K. It also means he can't follow me back, if he was so inclined. You know, as much fun as this was, I really kinda wish we had stayed together. You and me both. Then I wouldn't have wasted the rest of the day on this mouth breather. You're just in heat, Twily. You know you really hate me. She grinned and shook her head. There's only one part of you that I hate, Navi. You know what it is. My entire personality. That right there. Your worst, most disgusting feature. So it was my personality. I don't know why, but that actually kinda hurt. No. Your self-hate. It's awful and I could never understand it. I've been trying since the beginning, but you didn't make it easy. I shrugged. Everyone likes puzzles. I bet that's really why you're with me. No. It's the only thing that ever makes me question why I am with you. How can I expect love from someone who can't even find it for herself? I dunno. I've been reserving it for other people? Humans only have so much love to give, Twilight. I can't love myself and others. It's one or the other, not both. I don't believe that. Well, I think I'd know better. She slowly shook her head. Nav. You can admit you need help. I know you. Remember, I'm the best mare for you. I stared at her in silence for a very long time before sighing. That was a huge gamble and you knew it. She jumped forward to hug me again. I never doubted for a second. Fuck you, though. I'll never admit it. She pulled back and nuzzled me. You don't need to, Navi. Her head leaned in for a kiss, so I licked her on the nose and vanished back into my own dream. That was just cruel, Aqua said. But it was perfect timing and you know it. She crossed her arms and sighed in disappointment. That poor mare loves her drama. Her life is full of it. Ever since you got here, it's been in overdrive. Then she's gonna get bored with me when I retire. That means I should go with Fleur or Chrysalis. You know, I think I've made a decision. You're gonna love it, but it's a surprise. Go ahead and enjoy your holiday while it lasts, Navi. When you get back to Canterlot, we're gonna have so much fun. Ooh, am I gonna get to tear you apart? No, even better. But it's a surprise, silly. You'll just have to wait. Surprises are the worst. Why'd you have to tell me about it? Because as you ponder about what the surprise might be, I'll gain insight into how you think. That will help me guide you down the correct path. I hate you. Can you just wake me up now? One of her tendrils reached over and bopped me on the nose. The next thing I knew, I was back on the huge bed covered in super soft pink blankets. I can't believe this guy set up a full bedroom for a maid he thought he'd never have. You know, you better get started on breakfast, Aqua sweetly said. You wouldn't want your new master to have to punish you, would you? Remember when you first forcefully entered my body and you said that I would never even notice you? What happened to that? I changed my mind. This is more fun. God damn it. I pulled myself out of bed, regretting my shitty pony body with its shitty burning crotch. I swear to God, this dude better stop being a tease and put out today. And you can keep your stupid opinion to yourself. I don't have any stupid opinions, silly. All of mine are perfectly logical and based on reasoning. Honestly, you should listen to them more often. I think it would do you good. Eat a bag of dicks. That just made her giggle at me. It wasn't all that productive, so I went into the pink pony bathroom the dude designed for his fake pink pony maid. After taking a shower and all the usual morning bullshit, I went back into the pink pony bedroom and sighed. How is this my life? This is what happens when you let cute little ponies make all the decisions for you, Navi, Aqua said with a giggle. First they force you to go to parties, then they force you to be friends, then they force you to wear dresses, and now one is forcing you to be a sex toy maid. Don't you just love following orders? As a matter of fact, it was starting to grate. Some of the upsides have been interesting, but there have been a lot more downsides. I'm looking forward to that coma more and more every day. Oh, right. Yeah, that's not happening. Too risky, I'm afraid. When you get back to Equestria, you'll tell Twilight you changed your mind. You bitch. And then you'll tell her a few other things that she might find surprising, but we'll get to those later. For now, enjoy the festival while you can. You ominous bitch. It seemed that she was finally done talking to me, so I put on one of the numerous maid outfits this guy apparently had made. It reminded me a lot of the new one Doppel got, surprisingly. If it were me, I would have made them sexy instead. Once I was ready, I took a deep breath and finally left my room. As I did my best to softly pad to the kitchen, I noticed no signs that the fellow was awake yet. It's hard to believe this super rich guy would trust a pony he barely knows alone in his house. You're about as non-threatening as they come right now, silly, Aqua said. No one would ever suspect the kind and loving maid of anything untoward. And that's when I strike. With breakfast in bed and cuddles? Maybe a morning blowy if he actually wants to touch you today. If all you're gonna do is attack my self-esteem, can you just stop talking? I already hate myself enough for both of us. Oddly enough, she didn't reply. I counted that as a win and got started on breakfast. I guess the dude was too shy to ever go out and eat, because his kitchen was fully stocked. Well, either that or he really liked cooking. Let's see. He cooked last night for both of us, so he made it vegetarian. It'll just be him eating this time, so I can go full carnivore. If only I could join him. It's a good thing he was a meat eater, because I'm terrible at cooking most vegetarian stuff. With meat, all you need to do is season it, oil the pan, heat the oil, toss it in, and let it cook. That's precisely what I did with the bacon and the sausage. Scrambling the eggs took a little longer, but it was still no trouble. After everything was done, I poured a large glass of milk and carefully arranged everything on a trolley he had in the kitchen. This piece of shit better appreciate this. Aqua continued being silent as I rolled the cart down the halls, trying to remember which room was his. He showed me last night before tucking me into bed, but there were so many rooms that it took me a moment to find the correct one. Knocking got no reply. I waited a few long seconds before easing the door open. Didn't even lock it. It's like this guy wants to get murdered. He was still asleep in bed, unsurprisingly. The blanket was covering him, but his morning wood was casting a fairly sizable tent in it. I grinned darkly and closed the door back, then sat down. It only took me a moment to enter the dream world. His dream was right next to me as soon as I entered. It was a golden one. When I looked in, I saw him cuddling with me on the same bed. So I hopped in the dream, taking over my dream self's body. You know, Master, I'll follow any order you give me, I huskily said, pushing my flank against his stomach. I know, Rosie, he replied, pulling me tighter. And you seem so lonely, Master. I'm not lonely. I have you, Rosie. TCH, nerd. Well. I was just thinking. I know something we can both enjoy. You don't like cuddling, he asked. But you're so soft and comfy. Close your eyes, Master, I said. I have a surprise for you. Ooh, I like surprises. He pulled his talons away from me and used them to cover his eyes. I pushed away and rolled him over onto his back. Once he was in position, I knelt down between his legs and started having some real fun. He definitely wasn't expecting it, but he didn't try to stop me. After maybe a minute of that, I popped out of the dream world and opened his door again. He was whimpering and shaking, now. That was a good sign, so I pushed the door open the rest of the way and wheeled the cart in. Right when it sounded like the dream was starting to get good, I called out, "Good morning, Master." He screeched in shock and tumbled out of the bed trying to get away from me. I watched in amusement as he scrambled away until he realized it was just me. Seems like some pony was having some sweet dreams, I said with a giggle. His face turned bright red, of course. Rosie. I wasn't dreaming about you, I swear. Okay, Master. I brought you breakfast in bed. It took him several long seconds to recover from that. During that time, his dick never lost its hardness. It almost made me want to bite my lower lip. Man oh man, I need that thing inside of me. Curse this stupid pony body. Once he had gotten over the shock of getting forced out of his lewd dream, he seemed much more amiable. You actually did bring me. Wait, this is meat. Yep. I sweetly replied. All for you, Master. Apparently that was shocking. After a few seconds of thought, I realized that most ponies probably wouldn't have been okay with cooking it, if they even knew how. Well. I'm afraid I'm kinda a vegetarian, Rosie. Nothing but pony food for me. Bullshit. Then why was there meat in your fridge, Master? I asked. His feathers started twitching. For friends. But it was almost nothing but meat. How often do your friends come over? Ooh, do I get to serve them, too? No, he immediately shouted. There's that possessiveness. He cleared his throat. They won't be coming by today. I looked over at the tray. Then I suppose I'll make you a new breakfast, master, I sighed. I'm sorry, I thought you would appreciate breakfast in bed. And no, you don't have tea to I'll eat it. But, well, are you okay with that? I made it just for you. I sweetly replied, jumping back from the depressed mood. Anything to make you happy, master. His beak twisted up in a grin. You really are the perfect maid, Rosie. I'm happy to serve, master. And I'll be happy to follow any order you give me. For some reason, that made him nervous. I know, Rosie. He finally walked over to the food cart. Wow, this looks and smells amazing. I'm happy to hear that, master, I replied as he finally started eating. You know, you seem lonely. His eyes went wide and he choked on the eggs. What? I said you seem so lonely, master. His eyes went wide, the dream repeating itself. I couldn't help but wonder if he was expecting me to start sucking him off again. I'm not. I have you, Rosie. I suppose. Something flashed across his face but was gone before I had a chance to really see it. That said, I'm pretty sure it was disappointment. So what do you think of the festival, master? I usually skip it. Honestly, I don't know what I was thinking, even going to the auction. What were you hoping to find? I don't know. But when they opened the curtains and I saw you, I knew I had found it. Super gay. And more to the point, I knew I couldn't let any of the others get you. I wouldn't dare to imagine what some of these brutes would do to such a pure pony maiden. Wow! Does he think I'm some kind of doll or something? That was very thoughtful, master, I replied. The way some of them were looking at me made me feel uneasy. More like eager. Twilight's having all the fun. Anything to keep my new pony Waifo safe, he immediately replied. I stared at him in silence until he realized what he said and his face turned bright red. I mean. You think too much, master, I said. And you seem so tense. Would you like a surprise to help you relax? All I had time to see before he booked it to the bathroom is that his nose started bleeding. I had to try my hardest not to laugh out loud at him. I think this might be fun after all. After that, I started doing my best to do really sexy things and make it look like an accident. That included cleaning under one of the tables by shoving my ass in the air and letting my tail swing around wildly, eating a popsicle as lewdly and loud as possible while he squirmed in place, dropping innuendos everywhere, and just generally being a little tease. About 2 hours after I started, his dick was finally just staying hard the entire time, despite everything he tried to keep it down. It took him another half hour to stop trying to hide it, since I did my best to stare at it as much as he stared at me. Still, despite everything, he refused to touch me. Finally, after a full 3 hours of teasing, he decided we should go to the market. I assumed it was so he could get a break from my teasing. Or at least, I assume that's what he thought was going to happen. Are you okay with going back out? He asked when we were at the door. Of course. So what do we need from the market, master? This and that, he awkwardly replied, rubbing the back of his neck. Are you sure you don't want to go and enjoy the festival? I asked. You could always go to the market later. You know, without me. I swear, what kind of noble goes to buy their own groceries? And more to the point, what kind of dude buys a mare for 1500 bits just to make her do chores for a day? Well. As much as I enjoy serving you, I did come to Griffiths for the festival, master, well, I did. Rosie came here because Lady Ivory ordered it. And it would be nice to see you interacting with other griffins. I bet I can get you jealous enough to fuck me in the street, too. I dunno, Rosie. The other griffins might try to, you know. You'll be with me, right? Oh, of course. Then I'll be fine. Come on, master, don't you wanna enjoy the festival? My lady and I passed all kinds of fun events and performers. He finally sighed and hung his head. Okay. His body jerked back upright and he stared at me. But only if you promise to stay close to me. There's no telling what some of these griffins might do if they catch you alone. Master, I'm not made of tissue paper. And it's not like any of the griffins have lost their minds or anything. They're just a little more horny than usual. Right, but you're a pony, you know? You're soft and sensitive. I just barely stopped from guffawing in his face. It turned into a giggle instead. How many ponies have you really met, master? His face turned slightly red. Well. 1. Oh. Wow. Really, almost everything I know about them is from the manga. After meeting you, I gotta say, they got some things wrong. Truth is always different from fiction, master. But that isn't always bad. Come on, what else did the manga say about ponies? I'd be happy to answer all your questions. That made him turn even brighter. Why, let's just go explore the festival. Oh, come on, master. It can't be that bad. What else does it say? Well, for one, that ponies hate the thought of eating meat. The Griffin Master in the manga tried to get her to cook it, but she refused. Instead, she cooked him a meal so good that he turned vegetarian immediately. That's true for most ponies. But I was raised in a border town, so I'm used to it. That's part of why my lady brought me. Another thing is that you hate being dirty. The maid was always meticulously clean. I shrugged. That differs from pony to pony. Most of us don't like being dirty, but we can live with it. I just don't like the feeling of anything sticking to my coat. Well, I don't like the feeling of some things sticking to my coat. I do know a mare who freaks out whenever she gets anything at all on her, but I also know another mare who loves playing in the mud. One is a bitch and one is a farmer, though. Hey. Wow. What about? Oh, is everything you eat sweet? Depends on the pony. I know some who only eat sweets and somehow never get fat. I know some who avoid them to maintain their figure. Wow. Master, ponies are all different. Whatever side of us you saw in your manga is just one aspect. If you really want to learn more about us, why don't you just go to Canterlot? His eyes jerked open wide. But, aren't ponies afraid of griffins? Not all of us, no. I actually know a few griffins who either live in Canterlot or who visit it often. There's Gustav, who does desserts. And there's Gilda, who lives with Lady Navarone. One of the night guards is a griffin, too. Oh, and Lady Ivory saw King Bloodbeak at the gala. Hey! I always thought. There was also a griffin noble who had pony servants, but he lived way out in nowhere. I think his name was Hestra. He tried to hire me once. You could go to Equestria to find a pony maid. He actually seemed to consider that idea for a little while before shaking his head. And no, I could and never. Why not? You already have everything in place for it. You wouldn't have to discuss it with anyone else, either. You could just do it and no one could stop you. You could even ask them more questions, master. Well, unless you have any more for me. Surely you got some other assumptions in there. He seemed relieved to move back in that direction. What about grass? Do ponies actually eat raw grass? After it's been cleaned, maybe. Most of us like turning it into a salad, though. Or drying and frying it into hay fries. I have seen Pinky eating grass from the ground before, but that's just Pinky being Pinky. And do you actually control the weather? Yep. I've been to the factory at Cloudsdale. It's really neat. Finally, we got to the crux of the matter. Or at least, what I assumed he had been leading up to. What about our relationships? We have those too, silly. I mean. What about, you know? You mean sex? He actually flinched. Ponies do that too, master. How else would we have foals? Well. Aren't ponies, you know, incredibly loyal partners? Some of us. He blinked. But my lady is here specifically to cheat on her husband. What about you, Rosie? Of course. His entire body seemed to sag. But it's a moot point, because I'm not in a relationship anyway. And just like that, he caught his second wind. I've actually been looking forward to this trip. I'm in heat right now and I could really use a good pounding. His mouth just dropped. It's a shame you aren't interested, but there are plenty of griffins who are. So you ready to go see more of the festival, master? Wait. Why you want to, with a GG griffin? Yet. Pure predators are so much fun. I like it when they hold me down and teach me my place. It really is a shame you're a vegetarian. We could have had a lot of fun. Oh well. Shall we, master? But you're a cute little pony maid. How could you like predators? Aren't your mangoes about a cute little pony maid who likes a predator? It's manga, not mangoes. And I already told you, she convinces the griffin to give up his predator ways and he becomes a perfectly loving partner. Sounds boring, I said with a shrug. Predators are so exotic and fun. Why would you ever want to give up those ways? So the adorable pony maid would fall in love with me. I lifted an eyebrow and he blushed bright red. So the adorable pony maid would fall in love with him. Then she obviously isn't falling in love with him, she's falling in love with some bitter mockery of him. If you have to change yourself so someone will fall in love with you, they obviously don't really care about you to begin with. A relationship built on such lies probably wouldn't last very long, since the griffin would come to resent the pony for forcing him to be someone he isn't just to earn her love. That's not true, he hastily yelled. They lived happily ever after. Even more boring and definitely unrealistic. All relationships have problems and all people have rough spots. Not in manga they don't. I'm kinda surprised they didn't become more popular in Equestria, then. Well, whatever. Now, how about we head into town, master? Not if you're just gonna go, griffin hunting. Does that mean you're gonna help with my estrus, master? I couldn't. That wouldn't be right. Why not? I innocently asked. Because why Yuri, you're a sweet and innocent little pony maid. I'd just hurt you. I don't mind a little bit of pain, I replied with a dirty grin. I'll even let you spank me, if you really want. So much for pretending to be Rosie. Man, this heat doesn't fuck around, does it? That made him whimper, for some reason. Rosie, I don't understand. You were so cute and sweet yesterday. My estrus started last night, silly, I lied. I'd be happy to do anything you wanted, master. I'll please you any way you like. For a moment, I thought he'd keep protesting. Then he came to a realization. Anything, he slowly asked. Anything, I repeated with a nod. I wanna rub your belly. God damn it. Alrighty. Hell, maybe it'll give him the confidence to do more. Shall we retire to your chambers, master? That made him choke, which got me giggling. Since he couldn't really formulate a response, I started trotting that way. It didn't sound like he was following me, so I guess I managed to completely break him. Should I feel bad about this? For once, I'm going to have to say no, Aqua replied. He chose to purchase you. Even if his intentions were pure, he still participated. So I can only say that he had it coming. I'm surprised to see you ask. I wasn't asking you. I was kinda hoping you wouldn't answer, either. I know, she sorrowfully sighed. It sounded like he was following me by the time I actually got to his room. There wasn't much time left, so I quickly hopped into the bed and did my best to display myself like a complete and total whore. When Aqua sighed in disgust, I knew I had the perfect pose. Just in time, too. Right before he got to the room, he started talking. Rosie, I'm not so sure. As soon as he got to the door, he froze and stared at me in shock. Not so sure about what, master? I innocently replied. He fell silent for a few seconds before loudly gulping. Rosie, I don't think we should do this. Why ever not, master? His eyes left mine, drifting down, and the blush on his face grew even brighter. It wouldn't be, appropriate, why you know. I don't see any issues. He finally squeezed his eyes shut. I don't want to take advantage of your estrus. Master, you may not realize it because the only way you know ponies is through your mangoes, but our estrus doesn't own us. I'm not interested in sex with you because I'm in heat, it's because I like sex. But we don't have to do this, master, I softly replied. But you have a real pony made on your bed right now, offering to do anything you ask. Are you really gonna tell me no? Given by the erection he was sporting, I figured he was starting to see things my way. I promise I won't bite. And I guarantee you'll enjoy it. He was silent for a few long seconds before hanging his head. Do you promise that you really don't want it just because you're in estrus? I promise, master, I sweetly said. Then I guess we can, really do it. Good. Now why don't you start by helping me get undressed, Hey, I'm the master here. I lifted an eyebrow. Forgive me, master. By all means, we'll start however you like. Right. He stood there awkwardly for a few moments before clearing his throat. Well, how about I help you get undressed? I think that's a wonderful idea, master, I said. So just come on over. What followed was the most awkward, uncomfortable sex I have ever had. This guy was incredibly inexperienced and honestly probably never even touched a girl before. It was almost enough to be cute, but it was mostly just awkward. Still, he did pay good money for me, so I really didn't mind the weirdness. And he definitely enjoyed his first time, if the avian noises he was making as he tried to go to town on me were any indication. When he was done wildly flailing about on me, he pulled me close to spoon me from behind. Given that he was so much larger than I was, it honestly felt pretty good. Rosie, that was amazing. I'm glad you enjoyed it, master, I delightfully sighed. You're so warm and strong. And I didn't hurt you, did I? He asked. Not even a little bit, I said. He sighed in relief, which tickled my ears. So how do you feel? He asked. I know you said your estrus was bad earlier. Much better, thanks to you, I said. Stupid pony body. So was that just like your fanfics, master? I never wrote any like this. What's the point of fanfics if you aren't going to make them lewd? Come on, man. Aqua snorted, because all she's good for is snark. Silence fell over us again as we continued to bask in the afterglow. What he lacked in skill, he partially made up for in sheer size. If he ever actually got some practice in, he would be able to wreck anyone he boned. He certainly wasn't going to be getting the practice with me, though. After maybe half an hour or so of cuddling, I quietly asked, so when is the 24 hours over, anyway? His arms pulled me tighter. It's gotta be getting close, right? You you don't have to go, you know. Oh no. I don't think Lady Ivory would be very happy with me if I stayed too late. I mean, you don't have to go back to Canterlot. You could, you know, stay here with me. Oh boy. And be your maid instead? I asked. He finally turned me around, so we were facing each other. You could be my wife. Oh God. Wow. I don't know what to say. I think I love you, Rosie. Welp, I'm stumped. Aqua, wanna be useful? I need some suggestions. I have one, she said in my head. Her nanites took control of my mouth and she said out loud, wildfire. I instantly appeared lying on the floor of our hotel room. A quick glance around the place told me that I was alone. That was kinda mean. No, that was extremely mean, she said. But I'm not going to have you trying to get away from a clingy, possessive griffin that's twice your size and incredibly rich. This method was safer, quicker, and now we never have to worry about him again. Until he comes looking for me because he loves me, apparently. Then Twilight can scare him off. Really, Nav, just how do you manage to ruin everything you touch? Skill, I said, finally coming to my hooves. My body was craving a shower, something fierce. Hopefully he'll realize that he doesn't actually love me. Perhaps he does, Aqua said as I walked to the bathroom. You don't know. Then hopefully he'll realize that my answer was no. She giggled. I kinda doubted it too, but I was staying hopeful. Twilight still wasn't back when I got out of the shower, so I just went downstairs to get lunch. There weren't that many people out and about in the inn, which made getting food quick and easy. My purple mistress hadn't returned when I got back upstairs. Lacking anything else to do, I hopped up onto the bed. There's nothing stopping you from going out and enjoying the festival on your own, Aqua said. I ain't going nowhere without that teleport spell. I have no way of defending myself right now, so I'm not gonna risk anything. A surprisingly wise answer, she replied, almost sounding amused. I do so enjoy it when you actually put thought into things. Then I'll be sure to stop. Oh, don't be like that, she coyly said. We don't have to be enemies, silly. Of course we don't. Just get out of me and it won't be a problem anymore. You can keep Celestia. Would that I could, she sighed. But you've proven unmanageable without a chaperone at all times. Yeah, well, you've proven that you're a bitch. She huffed and didn't reply, thankfully. About an hour later, Twilight teleported in, also ending up lying on the floor. To put it lightly, she was covered in cum. It was honestly kinda disgusting. What the fuck did you do? I asked as soon as I saw her. All she could do was moan. I slid off the bed and walked over to her so I could get a better look. It was obvious she had seen quite a few partners today, from the way her holes were gaping. If, you know, the copious amount of fluid wasn't enough. Jesus, Twilight. Did you just get gang-banged for hours? And no, she finally groaned. Well. I learned what a glory hole is, she delightfully sighed. Griffins apparently have full-body ones during the festival. They covered my cutie mark and left my hindquarters in a room where griffins could come and go as they pleased. Lewd. So how you feelin'? Drained. So, wanna clean me up? Hell no. Bitch, you nasty. Go take a shower. Please. No, I walked back over to the bed and hopped into it again. She continued lying there. So, did you have fun? Oh yeah. You. I did not, no. She giggled and rolled over so she could look at me. There was a small puddle of slime where she had been lying. It was gross. Did he ever decide to have sex with you? No. I decided to have sex with him. It took some talking into. I deeply regret it. Was he really that bad? She asked. Yes. but it was mostly that he proposed to me afterwards. Her eyes blinked a few times as she processed that. Finally, she asked, "What do you mean, proposed?" "He asked me to stay and become his wife. After a single day." "Yet. It was awkward." "What did you say?" "Wildfire." She snorted. "Figures. I'm impressed, Nav. No one's ever asked for my hoof in marriage before. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe it's because you like going to glory holes and then lying around covered head to hoof in cum." "Forgive me for basking in the glow," she muttered, her horn lighting up. Shortly after that, a wave of magic completely cleaned her off and she finally stood up. "Ooh, I can already tell that's gonna ache. Was it worth it?" "I don't know yet," she said, walking over to join me on the bed. "So how cute and awkward was he?" "Not very cute, but extremely awkward. I wouldn't be surprised if I actually cringed when he asked me to stay." I wonder what Taya will say when I tell her." "I'd rather you didn't, but I know you prefer watching me suffer to actually seeing me happy." "That's not true." I lifted an eyebrow and she sheepishly grinned. "But seeing you suffer is kind of fun sometimes." "Ahoy! I wonder what Cadance and Shining Armor will say when I tell them about your prostitution gig." "Fair enough. So now what?" I finally asked. "Now we go get food, then I come back up and take an actual shower. After that, we'll see. If I'm aching too much, I might just stay here. I'd be happy to recast the spell so you can leave, though. That would take most of the fun out of it, but I can definitely understand. Also, I already ate, but I'd be happy to join you downstairs." "Excellent. Now where is your dress?" "At the guy's house." We were still naked when he said it and the thing was in another room. I had to bail ASAP. "Well, I can punish you for that later. For now, you are permitted to be nude." "Woohoo! You're so generous, my lady. And don't you forget it." She started to slide off the bed, but froze in place after moving a few limbs. "Ooh, it's already aching. Want me to bring you something up?" I really wanted to go down and brag about everything we've done. "Then stop complaining and let's go." She sighed dramatically and continued her way off the bed. I followed her to the door and we went back downstairs. It was slightly later, so there were a few more patrons. It wasn't rowdy, though I had a feeling that Twilight might attempt to change that. We picked an empty table and sat. A waitress got to us immediately and Twilight placed her order. As soon as the waitress chick walked off, Twilight began loudly talking about all the things we had done yesterday. I kept myself to demure, quiet responses and didn't point out that I had won all the bets and been sold for almost 3 times as much. I gotta say, it was amusing to watch Twilight roleplay as a complete slut. Playing Rosie might have been fun if I didn't have to pretend to be reluctant about sex. As it was, being all cutesy and demure was starting to grate. Since the stew was prepared beforehand, Twilight got her meal quickly. She took her time eating so she could tell everybody about how many cocks she had in her that day alone and a few thoughts out loud about what her husband might be doing right then. None of the griffins were actually staring at us, but there's no way they hadn't heard what Twilight was saying. A few of them actually sent me looks of pity, but they didn't last long. It might be time to talk to Twilight about toning it down a little. Her long-winded tirade of sluttiness finally ended and we returned back upstairs. She was shaking her hips way more than she should have been until we got out of view, at which point she started limping. "Those griffins sure did a number on you, my lady," I quietly said. "Nobody asked for your opinion," she testily replied. "Yeah, it's time for that talk." When we got back to the room and shut the door, I said, "You're being too much of a bitch." "I'll tone it down," she sighed as she walked to the bathroom. I assumed she was going to the shower or whatever. I grabbed the bag I got from the competition and dumped it out on the bed. I wanted a better look at the watch. Now that I had a second to study it, I realized the feathers on the back of it were attached to griffin wings. The front side had a pair of talons engraved on it. When I opened it, I discovered that the numbers and watch hands were gold instead of bronze. It was behind what looked like some kind of crystal instead of glass. In short, I definitely liked it. I also studied the bag a little more, but it was honestly pretty nondescript. I was gonna try to cash the check soon, so I didn't forget. The phones looked simple, so I just shoved them back into the bag and hopped up onto the bed myself. Without any books or anything else to do, I reluctantly entered the world of dreams. There weren't many griffin dreaming presently, but most of the existing ones were red. I hunted down all those that weren't and fixed it using Celestia's body. Aqua woke me up when the water to the shower cut off. Twilight exited a few minutes later, covered in towels. I wasn't that bad, was I? She asked. I'm honestly surprised none of the griffins said anything. It looked like a few of them were considering it. Hey! I'll be more careful, then. I want to avoid a confrontation. I'm sorry if I was too mean to you. You definitely got bitchiness down. Now I just need to train you to use it on my enemies. She giggled and hopped up onto the bed so she could snuggle with me. Her body was still damp, but it wasn't too bad. You're so cute, Navi. You know what I like doing when you're being cute. Nuzzle me. Yeah. But this time I think I'm gonna rut you instead, just so I can see the adorable expressions on your face. Creepy. I thought your body was sore. A dildo appeared, held aloft by her magic. My horn's not. I hope your body is ready, Navi. She started playing hide the dildo with me. It was enjoyable. Once she was finished watching my expressions, she finally rolled off of me with a sigh. I do so enjoy your face when you have an orgasm, she said. It's just too cute. You're sadistic, I panted. That made her giggle. So now what are you gonna do, Navi? I'm definitely staying in, but you're free to go out. It would give me time to take some notes anyway. Then that's what I'll do, I replied. Just recast the teleporting spell, if you don't mind. I don't want to run into that creepy griffin again. Or any other confrontations I can't talk my way out of. No problem, she replied, pressing her horn against my side. Same code word. Something pulsed into me and she pulled away. Be careful out there, honey. I don't expect any issues, but you never know. I'm sure I'll be fine, I told her. She snorted as I rolled off the bed and walked to the door. Try to be back by tomorrow morning, by the way, she said. The cutie mark spell wears off then. I was planning on coming back tonight. I don't really want to spend the night with another griffin. Good. I prefer having you all to myself. It was my turn to snort and I left as soon as I did, making sure to close the door behind me. No one bothered me as I left the inn, thankfully, so I was quickly free to do anything I wanted. At the moment, all I really cared to do was just walk around. Now that the festival was on its second day, the novelty of constant sex wore off for a number of griffins. I still picked up a few lascivious stares and pony calls, but most of the griffins barely paid me any mind at all. Of course, if the pony calls were good enough, I took them into a back alley to suck them off. I wanted to have some fun, after all. Hearing them moan and chirp as they came was always amusing. After spending maybe an hour just enjoying the festival, I came upon a sign with a familiar name. DJ Pone 3 concert tonight, you say? I whispered, walking closer to the poster. Now that could be fun. The sun was starting to set about that point, so it was rapidly getting dark. The concert was supposed to start as soon as night fell. There was an address listed, but I wasn't really familiar with it. Do you know where that is? I asked aloud. I do, Aqua replied. I would be delighted to guide you there. Good, because I'd be delighted to go. See there? You can be useful. Just keep meeting my needs and I might hate you slightly less. Baby steps, she happily said. Now, would you like to fly or walk? Fly. I wanna get there early and see if I can convince her I'm me. We could have some real fun if no one knows who I am but her. That is very disappointing, but I am willing to accept some of your life choices. For now, at least. Now, take off, and I shall guide your path. She was true to her word, thankfully. We can get along, Nav, she said when I was over the venue. We just have to make compromises. You more than me, of course, but that's a sacrifice you'll just have to make. You're a bitch. I can't believe you aren't capable of reading my mind enough to know that I hate everything about the way you act, what you're doing, and why you're doing it. If you really want me to start getting along with you, why don't you stop doing things that I hate? Oddly enough, she didn't have a reply to that. This was an outdoor concert in a fairly large square. After a few passes, I noticed that one of the buildings closer to the stage had a few buff griffins standing at it. Since Vinyl wasn't anywhere else, I flew over that way and landed in front of them. What do you want? One immediately asked me. I'm a friend of Vinyl Scratch, I said. I was wondering if I could talk to her. She said she was expecting a friend, one said as they both backed away from the door. Go on in, Miss Octavia. Worst bodyguards ever. Thanks guys, I said as I walked through them. Good to know Octavia's gonna be here, though. Vinyl was doing a line of salt when I walked in, so she didn't look up until I had the door closed. I could barely tell it past the glasses, but her eyes widened when she saw me. Who the buck are you? Navarone, I replied. Twilight turned me into a pony so I could get fucked like crazy at this sex festival. Whoa. That's buckin' hot. You're not even gonna question that? I asked. PSH, no. I know you. And I definitely know that bored, monotonous voice anywhere. Cool. I kept walking in. You might wanna tell the guards that I'm not Octavia, though. That's why they let me in. Worst guards ever, she sighed, hopping up. Help yourself to anything here, she said as she walked past me. The door closed behind her, so I assumed she was yelling at them and didn't want me to hear. It didn't hurt my feelings any, so I just walked over to where she had been sitting. There was more salt there, along with what looked like a few joints. She also had a small barrel of mead. A plate of cookies was sitting on top of it. There wasn't a lighter, so the joints were out. I didn't want to try the pony equivalent of cocaine at all, so that wasn't an option. The barrel had a spout on it, so I grabbed a mug and filled it up. Cookies and mead wasn't the best combination, so I only ate one before giving up on it and just drinking. Vinyl poked her head back in while I was on my second mug. You interested in getting rutted real quick? These guards are gonna make up for this the fun way. Sure. Tell them my name is Rosie. You got it. She pulled her head back and I finished off the mug. Yeah, I say this'll be fun. It was very fun. They were both just the right kind of rough. Aqua called me a slut a bunch of times during it, but honestly, that kinda just made me enjoy it more. When they were done, they high-fived each other and then walked out to resume their duties. Vinyl floated me a towel and we got ourselves fixed up. So when's this thing supposed to start? I asked. Probably 15, 20 more minutes. So, did you come in yesterday? The night before. We've been pretending to be a lady and maid pair. I bet you get to be the maid, right? Yep. She giggled. Knew it. Do any events? 2. We did the chase thing at the start where whoever caught us got to have sex with us. Ooh, that one is fun. How was the guy who caught you? I escaped. That made her scoff. Where's the fun in that? The Griffins loved it. They said that they were happy one of the ponies actually took it seriously. That shit made them super hard. But you didn't get to enjoy it. I shrugged. Sometimes being wanted is enough. Being a tease can be fun. She shook her head sadly. You just haven't been a mare long enough. Tell you what, how about I give you a fun surprise tonight? What's that? I asked. She walked over to a desk against the far wall and opened a chest. I was gonna give these to Octavia, but she said she probably couldn't make it anyway. 2 crystals floated out. When she walked back over, I realized they were carved into dildos. These are special harmonic crystals from the Crystal Empire. They vibrate hard in the presence of any sound. At a concert like this, you'd probably feel it all the way through your body. That sounds intense. She smirked. I thought you said you had been broken in, Navi. C'mon, you ain't gonna wimp out, are you? I didn't say that. Good. One of the toys floated behind me and slid right in. She looped the other one up first and got it in more slowly. They felt snug and warm. I recommend just panties. They'll keep the toys in, but soak right through so every pony can see what you're doing. Sounds good to me. You got a pair I can borrow? TCH, of course. I hope you can fit one of Octi's old pairs. I was gonna give M back, but she couldn't be bothered to show up. What was her excuse? I dunno, something about a charity concert for an orphanage or whatever. She just always has an excuse. She can be so selfish. Sounds like it. How dare those kids be orphans? All her attention should go to you. She sighed and hung her head. I tried telling her, but she just wouldn't listen. I'm glad you understand, Nav. I honestly couldn't tell if she was being serious or not. It also didn't really matter. So let's see those panties. Right. They were apparently also hiding in the box. She floated them over and held the dainty pink things up for me. I like 'em. You're really trying to make me into a slut, aren't you? Day. I wish you had told me you were coming. Hey, I wish you had told me sooner that you could turn into a pony. I would have gotten you all kinds of tail. Especially since you're buckin' hot. What else can you turn into? A dragon and a changeling. Twilight also thinks she can do griffin, but the last time she tried, she turned me into a house cat. How was being a dragon? Cool, minus the torture and almost being turned into a breeding sow. Sounds like you got some juicy news stories. We'll have to meet up soon to talk. I'm gonna be in Canterlot for a while when I get back. I'll be heading to Ponyville periodically. Awesome. We'll match schedules later. Right, and then we can talk about how awesome it is to break in a new skillet or sponge. Her face lit up. Oh Celestia, I didn't believe you when you told me, but when I first tried it, oh. You're making fun of me, aren't you? The big shit-eating grin on my face was enough of an answer, but I confirmed it by nodding. Jerk. I'll make it up by kissing your ass before you go up to the stage. If you want, that is. I do. Slut. I stuck my tongue out at her. I better see you walkin' outta here with 2 or more griffins. Maybe even set up shop nearby so they can run a train on you. No, I'm not that bad. I finally grabbed the panties and carefully put them on. Just barely too tight, I said. Even better. That way, the outlines will poke out. Now, you want anything else before we head out? Just another cookie, I said, walking over to them. They tasted really good, for some reason. Though being dipped in mead made them straight up unpalatable. Oh, you like those? She asked as I nommed another one. I nodded, since my mouth was full. Good to know. I tried a new dosage this time, so the weed taste is strong. That's probably why they taste so good. These are weed cookies? I slowly asked. Yep. She flew one over and popped the whole thing in her mouth. They're the best, she forced out as she noisily chewed. So, Aqua. You did this to yourself. Enjoy, Navi. Well, this is gonna be interesting, I said. I've never actually gotten high before. Ooh, you're gonna love it, she said, a huge grin spreading across her face. It makes sex so much better. You might turn into a drooling mess on the dance floor, Navi. God damn it. If I can survive horrific cursed mushrooms, I can survive this. If it's as good as it's supposed to be, I'm sure I'll have fun. Of course, that didn't stop me from worrying about it, but it was too late at that point. That's the spirit. Now, shall we? Yab. We both walked over to the door. The feeling of the toys inside of me was very distracting, but they weren't vibrating yet. She placed a hoof on the door handle, but didn't open it. Brace yourself, Nav. They're probably gonna start cheering when they see me, which is gonna set those toys off. I'll be ready. Good. Now, you'll walk up to the edge of the stairs with me, then kiss my dock before I continue alone. You can join the crowd, then. What's a dock? She lifted her tail up. This little fleshy part of the tail, right where it meets my body. Feel free to use tongue. I had no idea there was a name for that. Twilight always makes funny noises when I suck on hers. Anyway, let's do it. She finally pushed the door open and we walked out to face the crowd. Sure enough, when they saw Vinyl, they all started cheering. The sound hit me like a truck and I instantly moaned. Vinyl giggled and soaked up the cheers, making a few poses to make them cheer more. My back legs were shaking slightly, but I held myself together as we continued to the stage. Once we got there, I made good on my word and kissed her dock, then made my way to the crowd with a big grin on my face. The crowd cheered me on, of course. It was orgasmic. Vinyl apparently didn't want me to have any relief at all, because she immediately started playing music. The wave of sound shook me to my core. Dancing was going to be very unlikely, so I just settled in for the long haul, focusing on the wonderful feelings coming from down under. Honestly, I don't remember much of the concert. It was a haze of pleasure and lewdness with constant booming music reverberating through me. I know I definitely had sex with a lot of griffins, but I didn't really register it happening. With the weed dulling my mind and the pleasure hitting me so hard, I suppose I just acted on instinct. To no one's surprise, it turns out my instincts are slutty. After the concert ended, I just wandered off. I kinda question Vinyl's friendship skills, given that she let me leave alone while under the influence of drugs in a strange new city, but I already knew she was kind of a selfish bitch. After some amount of time spent aimlessly walking around the streets, still wearing nothing but leaking panties, I was jolted back to reality by a strong female griffin grabbing me by the neck and slamming me against a wall. Well well well, what do we have here, she said, pushing her face in closer to mine. Looks like a little mare in heat, another one said, joining her right in my face. And it looks like she's spent some time with a few griffins, too, a third added. You know what I hate? The one holding my throat asked. Tourists, one of her friends suggested. Pony skanks hunting on our turf, the other asked. Girls that are prettier than I am, the mean one said. She lifted her talons with a smirk and cruelly said, let's fix that. Drop her, a new voice said. It was deep and harsh, definitely a male griffin. My three attackers took a look that way before the really mean one dropped me and they all flew off. I looked over expecting to see guards. Instead, it was the same guy who bought the royal guard the night before. Are you unharmed? Yet. Thank you. These streets can be unsafe after dark for one such as you, he said. Would you like me to take you someplace safe? Sure. But would you be interested in, say, a reward, first? He blinked a few times before grinning. Well, I suppose that depends on the reward. What did you have in mind, little miss? Well, you saved me. I think my hero deserves to pick. I'd be happy to do anything you like, sir. His grin widened. Then how about we find a back alley? Sounds good to me. I followed behind him as we searched for a place to do the nasty. Since Griffiths is, for the most part, a fucked up warren of unplanned roads, it didn't take us long to find a secluded alleyway. So how shall I reward my savior? I sweetly asked. He reached down and grabbed my chest, then thrust me up against a wall. The roughness of it made me moan right as he kissed me. His other talons ripped my panties down and wadded them up. When he pulled away from the kiss, he shoved the soiled things in my mouth. He pulled a gag out of a pouch and tied it around my face. The talon on my chest let go and I fell to the ground. He rolled me over onto my back and rapidly hog-tied me with rope he had hanging on his side. When he was done, he pulled back and admired both me and his handiwork. Once he was satisfied that I wasn't going anywhere, he finally dicked me down hard. Apparently the guard just whet his appetite for ponies. Anyway, when he had collected his entire reward, he pulled away, panting. You're on my feathers, you were the easiest bounty ever. He walked over and lifted me up so he could take off. They told me Lady Navarone would be impossible to take down. Well, that doesn't sound very good. That's because it's not, Aqua said. Wait one moment. She fell silent and the griffin's flight path became erratic for a moment before he began landing in the closest courtyard. When he set me on the ground, I noticed that his eyes were now blue. Aqua used his body to untie me and ungag me. So now what? I asked. It seems that this fellow got your bounty in China, the land of the dogs, she said with his mouth. He doesn't know who set the bounty, but he does know where to collect it. So how did he know I was here? Pointy hat, the day guard he bought yesterday. Apparently he mentioned speaking to Lady Navarone about the festival. Since you weren't exactly subtle about your intentions to come up here for the festival, it didn't take this bounty hunter long to figure out that you were here and who you probably were. Wow! Thank you. You're very welcome, she happily said, turning my head warm. I will always protect you when you are in true danger. For what it's worth, though, you wouldn't have needed my help to escape. He was planning to ungag you when he got to his safe house. You could have used the command word then. Still, now we have this guy in custody. What are you gonna do with him? I have not decided. For now, he is going to forget that he came here for you and focus on enjoying the festival. If I have need of him later, I will activate him. Alrighty then. Cool. I think it's time for me to go back to the hotel. Agreed. Where there was one, there could be others. You and Twilight need to have a change of plans. Lady Ivory and Rose Charm are no longer safe. Yet. This is gonna be awkward to explain. She's probably gonna do the lie detecting thing and there's no way I can just pass this one off. Tell her that you want to do something different tomorrow. Since you know she's gonna be aching, she should go back to her normal coat and visit the library. You can either have her turn you into a griffin or a changeling and enjoy the festival that way. That'll work for day 3. I guess I'll just have to play the others by ear. We know we're still seeing Princess Gilda, so that's one day. We're also seeing the other Gilda and possibly Spike, so that's 2 days. We already have tomorrow covered. That just leaves 2. It shouldn't be difficult to find some reason to be in different bodies. I shrugged. Whatever. Have fun with your new toy. I finally flew off, leaving the uncomfortable conversation behind. I can't believe I actually had to be nice to that thing. I know you just said that to hurt me, Nav. But it's okay, because I love you. Ahoy. Sure you do. Forever and ever, she softly whispered in one of my ears. It was creepy. When I got back to the hotel, Twilight was actually down in the common area getting drunk. I walked over to her table and joined her. Ah, so my maid finally returned, she loudly called as I sat. I have, My lady, I said. Several wonderful gentle griffins have been buying me a fantastic local drink called mead. That's alcohol, my lady, I replied. The same as Applejack. Well, I love it. You should try some, Rosie. No thank you, my lady. I've already had enough tonight. Ooh, did you actually do something interesting for once? I went to a DJ PON3 concert. She mistook me for a friend, so I got the full VIP treatment, including a few special items. They made me feel amazing. I might have to get some more of those cookies. You know, maybe. I feel pretty amazing too, you know. In fact, she leaned in closer and whispered, we could go feel amazing together. That sounds fun, my lady. We suddenly teleported upstairs. From the look on Twilight's face, I knew any kind of important talk would have to wait until tomorrow. I hope you're ready for some punishment, Rosie, Twilight said with a cruel-looking smirk. If she actually remembers this night, I have a feeling she'll be able to write an entire book about it. Twilight took 2 steps toward me. Before she could do anything, her eyes widened and she threw up everywhere. Some people just can't hold their fucking booze, man.